I don't know. Why aren't you?
Interesting.
Oh, we're live.
Hello.
Sup, y'all? Welcome to I should look up what episode this is. The 52nd episode of Original Gamers Podcast. There's 52 weeks in a year. So you would think that would mean we've been doing this for a year, but we actually hit that milestone a little while ago.
Yeah.
I don't remember who was or when that was, but anyway, I am your host, Patrick Ryan, otherwise known as Huge Cow Patty or HCP. And I'm joined today by my co-host, Joel Watt.
Hello, friends.
And maybe Nolan will join us later.
Maybe.
We don't know where he is. So this week we are going to be talking about
The fact that we're both wearing Hawaiian shirts.
oh yes. Yes, we are. It's Hawaiian Shirt Day. We got the
Right.
memo. Hopefully everybody else got the memo too.
Sorry.
No, it's cool. We will we will be talking about Twilight Princess. I'm reading my script and I didn't change the name and I almost said Another World because that's what's still there. And that's what we talked about last week. We'll be talking about The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. But before we dive into that, how you been, Joel? What's been going on?
I've had a fairly busy week. Every day this week, I've had something going on at work. So, yeah, Wednesday was terrible. We won't get into that. But
you're probably gearing up for Easter stuff, huh?
Oh my gosh, am I ever. Easter is fast approaching. And so next week is going to be super busy too. I don't know why. Actually, I do know why. The first Tuesday and the first Thursday, we always have a big event for the men and women, respectively. And so, almost every month, those two events line up to be on the same week. And so, it's like, okay, the first week is always really rough. And then we just also happened to have a progressive dinner last night. I don't know if you know what that is.
Is that when a bunch of progressives get together and talk about social justice?
No. It's where everybody meets at the church for like appetizers, and then you split off into groups and you go to different host houses and have a different course of a meal at a different house. So you show up at one house for salad, and then the group moves to the next house for the main, and the next house for whatever. And or it was probably like soup, salad, main, and then they all came back for dessert. And so, it's now that I think about it, it was a lot like when I worked at the movie theater. And so it was like lots of intense activity for a little while, and then sat there for 2 hours and did nothing.
Right.
And then lots of intense activity at the end, and then it was time to go. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I've been to something similar to that down here. Maybe they called it a progressive dinner. I don't remember. So,
yeah, so that kind of culminated the week. And so now it's very early, and I don't. After having a late night, I was there till after 10 last night.
Oh yeah.
And then I don't remember when I fell asleep. Hello, Jennifer. We have a viewer watching live.
We have somebody watching. Hi, Jenny.
Yes.
What's going on?
So cool.
Sweet. My week has been filled mostly with work and playing Breath of the Wild. I told myself that I was going to play some Twilight Princess this week. I had played it before Breath of the Wild came out, and not even specifically for this show, just because I wanted to go through it. And I got through the first dungeon. No, I got through the first two dungeons before the March 3rd came around, and I got the Switch and Breath of the Wild and all that stuff. And so I haven't played much of anything else after that. I haven't finished Pokemon because of this. I haven't. I have other games for my Switch. I have I Am Setsuna. I have Fast RMX. I have Bomberman. I have 1-2 Switch. I do have Snipper Clips, and my wife played that. Like, we've completed it. We've beaten every puzzle, and I would be absolutely fine with them coming out with DLC and there being more of that, because that was a fantastic game. I liked that. But other than that, like, I played Fast RMX maybe twice. I played Bomberman a couple of times, but no, it's been Breath of the Wild. Just that's all I've been doing. It's all I've been my wife, she's been playing it too. She said one day, she was like, man, I wish we had enough money to have 2 of these so we could both be playing it. And I'm like, we wouldn't talk to each other if we did that, because you'd be playing it. And like the only reason that we talk to each other now is because we feel like if one of us was playing it, we'd just be ignoring the other one. So we don't play it. And I'm like, no, if we had 2 Switches and 2 copies of this game, that would be it. The only time we would speak would be when one of us stopped and was like, hey, I should probably eat so I don't die. That would be it. So the game is fantastic. And I've said on this show before, and I said in the community group, because we're talking about a Zelda game, I'm sure Breath of the Wild is going to come up a lot, but don't not watch this, because we're going to keep it spoiler free, and we're going to try and stay on Twilight Princess as best as we possibly can, because that's actually the game we're talking about and not Breath of the Wild. I know us, we like to tangent, and that's how that's going to go. So with that, let's dive into Twilight Princess. Most of the information, we always go through sort of the credits of the game. Most of these names you're going to have heard already, so we won't spend a whole ton of time talking about them. Although, and when I get to it, there's one little interesting tidbit here that I found surprising. So anyway, the developer, of course, is Nintendo, specifically Nintendo EAD. The publisher is Nintendo. It was directed by Eiji Aonuma, who has been the director of every major Zelda game since Ocarina of Time. And I do want to stop on him for a second. I was watching I don't remember if it was a Did You Know Gaming. I want to say that YouTube channel did it. So it probably was a like structured like a Did You Know Gaming. He has a game, the first game that he did that was big. It never made it out of Japan. And I want to say it was a Super Nintendo game that released in Japan either very shortly before or after the N64 came out, so that's why it never left Japan. I can't remember what it was called, but it was so similar to A Link to the Past that Shigeru Miyamoto told Aonuma, look, if you want to make a Zelda game, let's just have you make a Zelda game. We'll make you the director of the next one. And that's how he wound up being the director of Ocarina of Time, and he's been the director of Zelda ever since then. So that was a little interesting factoid about him and how he got involved in the series. The game was designed by... Well, I'll let you take these, Joel.
Okay. Really? Mm-hmm. As soon as I clicked on it, it's like I needed to reload for no good reason. Okay, sorry. So it was designed by Yusuke Nakano and Satoru Takezawa. No, Takezawa.
Takezawa,
yep. Dyslexic there. Satoru Takezawa. And I don't know either of those names.
Yeah, I don't know either of them either. And I didn't find... Well, I didn't look for much information about them because I was very quickly typing this up just before we went live. Of course, the producer is, who's also the creator, Shigeru Miyamoto. So what I found interesting about this is Koji Kondo didn't compose this game. It's
really?
two guys by the name of Toru Minagishi, something like that, and Asuka Ota or Ata. It's Ohta.
I've seen that name, Toru Minagishi.
Yeah.
I've seen that name before. It was either in the credits of a Zelda game or another game by Nintendo. But yeah, I know that name.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
I'm going to.
Oh, and so as long as you're looking that up,
Yeah.
yes, the game that you're talking about Aonuma made is just like uh, uh, A Link to the Past. It's called Marvelous. Oh my gosh, I can't. Let's just say the English translation: Marvelous, Another Treasure Island.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, and it looks like Chrono Trigger or Secret of Mana, maybe. And Zelda had a baby. Like,
hey, I wouldn't have a problem with that at all. Okay, so the first guy, Toru Minagishi, he's been with Nintendo since 1998. His first credit is Pokemon Stadium, and it's got him listed here for both the Japanese and the American version as separate things. So maybe they have different soundtracks. I don't know. He helped Koji Kondo on Majora's Mask. He's done Animal Crossing games. He's done Mario games. Let's see. He helped with Wind Waker, and then of course here with Twilight Princess. He composed music for Wii Fit. All that classic music from that game. Yes. And he's credited on here as working on the soundtrack for Splatoon 2, but not the first one that I can see. So all that weird grungy rock, whatever that is.
Oh yeah, it's like synth rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, yes, he is on here as part of the composition team for the first Splatoon. I just overlooked it. So yeah, a lot of Nintendo games. Been with the company since 1998.
Seems like Nintendo keeps their people for a long time, and that's good. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's a good thing.
Because that means they're not a horrible company to work for.
Yeah. Low turnover.
Yeah, okay. So now so the other guy doesn't have a Wikipedia page, and it just took me to Nintendo EAD's Wikipedia. So he must work in that department over there at Nintendo. So I'm not going to be able to give you a detailed list of what he's been involved in, but I just found it interesting that Koji Kondo not credited at all with this game.
Yeah.
So that's
he's known for working on Nintendo's big franchises, and
right. And obviously all of the Zelda themes, he wrote the original ones of them. So.
They're all based on his original work. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So anyway, all right. Releases. So this game, as most of you listening know, was in development for the GameCube for a while. And then when the Wii came out, similar to what happened with Breath of the Wild from Wii to Switch, it got announced they were putting it on a Wii, but they were also still putting it out on GameCube. And the Wii version actually came out first, at least in North America. Actually, the Wii version came out first everywhere except Japan. The GameCube version came out first in Japan. So we'll get to that. So,
are you sure about that?
What's that?
Not according to these release dates you have.
What, dude? Oh, no, you're right. The Japanese version of the GameCube version and the American... There's a date in here that's the same. What am I looking at? The North American GameCube version came out on the same day as the Japanese Wii version. That's where I'm getting confused.
Yeah.
I knew I saw December 11th on there twice. So, okay. So it came out on Wii in North America on November 19th. And this is all 2006, so that I don't have to keep saying that year. North America, November 19th. Japan, December 11th. Australia, December 7th. And Europe, December 8th. And then on GameCube, it came out in Japan on December 2nd. North America December 11th, Europe December 15th, and Australia December 19th. It was later re-released as Twilight Princess HD for Wii U. North America and Europe was March 4th, 2016. Australia was the very next day, 2016. And Japan was March 10th, 2016. And of course, that came with the Wolf Link amiibo.
Yes.
Which was the real reason that I bought it. So I basically spent $60 to get an amiibo. I mean, I wound up enjoying the game too, but I'm not sure that if it hadn't come with an amiibo that I would have gotten it.
I think I would have got it either way.
Yeah.
But that amiibo is really nice.
I've actually not opened it yet.
Oh, really?
It's still in the box.
Oh, but he's so good in Breath of the Wild.
I know. I need to do that. So I have not. I have used an amiibo with Breath of the Wild once just to see what it did.
Oh.
It was
which amiibo?
I think the Smash Brothers Link. Because I don't have any of the. I mean, like I've got Smash Brothers Toon Link. So, I don't have like the one maker specific link. Yeah. I don't have the what's that you're holding there?
This is Smash Bros. Link.
Okay, yeah.
So, this gave me Epona, by the way.
You know, mine gave me Epona also, and then I forgot to register her at a stable.
And so she lost somewhere.
Yeah, it's just out there.
You know,
I don't even know if like the game remembers that she is there. I might have to just tap the amiibo again and hope I get.
You know, if you run around the world where you last remembered her and you start whistling, she'll come to you.
Even though I didn't register, that still works?
Pretty sure.
Okay.
Because it's Epona.
I would have to remember where I had her though, because I haven't really been riding horses much at all. I have a horse that I've registered, but I find that too often I want to climb something that I can't take the horse with me.
Yep.
So I'm just like, just don't even ride it. But anyway, again, see, I told you tangents about Breath of the Wild. They're going to happen. Get used to it. All right, so let's get into the nitty gritty here. So Twilight Princess is probably most known as far as like how it stands out in the series as being the most realistic looking. And this was certainly in response to, so a little bit of history. Before the N64 came out, or maybe this, or was that for the game? What was that demo? That it wasn't a demo.
It was for the GameCube.
It was for the GameCube. That was it. You had that epic fight between Link and Ganondorf. That's right, because it was modeled after what they look like in Ocarina of Time. They just didn't look like they had triangles pointing off of every, because the polygon.
I believe it was at the Space World 2000 Expo or whatever.
Yes, back when Nintendo still had their own little convention. Why did they call it Space World? Is there a story behind that, or is just
why does Nintendo name anything the way they do?
No, it's called Space World for the same reason we have friend codes, whatever that is. So that they had that demo and it looked awesome and everyone got excited, and then a couple years later they're like Wind Waker, and everyone lost their collective minds.
Yes,
because they're like, what? This is not what we were looking for. And if you remember back then, everybody before Wind Waker even came out was like, this game's gonna suck. I hate it. It actually is one of my favorite of the series, and one of the reasons is because of how it looks. It has aged well. Twilight Princess, because it went for that more realistic look, has not aged quite as well as Wind Waker. At least I don't think so.
I will say the SD versions of Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, like Wind Waker does look better, yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But the HD versions, I think that Twilight Princess looks better in HD than Wind Waker does.
Wind Waker does?
Yes. And that's just my personal opinion. I also like the way that Twilight Princess HD plays, because I played the Wii version, obviously, of Twilight Princess originally, and the motion controls it seemed fun at first until I realized that I'm not actually doing anything with the remote.
Right.
Like, I'm just shaking the remote as a button input replacement.
Mm-hmm.
And that eventually like started to bother me. I was like, oh, and it's kind of the reason why I like Skyward Sword a little better as far as like, Wii version of Twilight Princess versus Skyward Sword. I like Skyward Sword because it's actually got the 1-to-1,
right?
Or sort of.
Yeah, it kind of tricks you into because like, yeah, you can move the Wii remote around and he'll move his hand, but
Yeah.
while he's doing that, you're not actually doing anything that's going to cause anything damage. And then when you do swing, the only real control that you're having over is the angle at which he swings.
Yep. It's one of 8 directions.
Yeah, but that's really it.
Yeah. And again, once I realized that, the game got easier, and I got, but I also felt tricked.
Yeah.
But I still like Skyward Sword a little better for that, though. It's like because it actually feels like my Wii remote is doing something instead of,
even if it's lying to you.
Yeah.
Well, so you were talking about combat, and this was. So, I'd been playing Twilight Princess HD, and then I got Breath of the Wild. And one of the first things that I tried to do in Breath of the Wild, without even really thinking about it, because I forget that Twilight Princess is the only Zelda where, at least that I can think of, where you can be in motion and swing your sword, and that doesn't cause Link to stop and put himself into like a stance. You can actually be moving and swinging your sword, cutting grass and stuff like that. Whereas in other Zelda games, Breath of the Wild for one, Wind Waker, if you hit the attack button, most Link's forward momentum kind of stops.
Yeah.
Because he stops to attack. And I tried to do that in Breath of the Wild and it didn't work. And I went, wait, why isn't this working? And oh, right. You could do that in Twilight Princess. But could you do that in Skyward Sword? I don't remember.
It depends on the attack, I think.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty sure you could swing your sword and move. I don't remember. Oh, it's been too long.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and play it. I still have it, I think. I don't know why I wouldn't. I still have the gold Wii Motion Plus thing.
Oh, I didn't spend money on that.
Yeah. Well, I didn't have a Wii Remote Plus prior to that. So I was like, well, I may as well spend the couple extra, what was it, like an extra $10 or maybe it was an extra 20.
I bought my Wii kind of late, and so when I did, I got the Wii Motion Plus with it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So that's actually something about the combat in Twilight Princess that I like more than others. And you were talking about the motion control. Yeah, I felt kind of cheated when I realized that, waggling the remote was really just a replacement for the A button.
Yeah.
But what that does is you actually now have an extra button on the remote that you don't have on the GameCube version. And so if I remember right, you know how you assign items to different buttons on the remote?
Yes.
Pretty sure on the Wii version, you get an extra slot.
Yeah.
Than you do on the, So that when I realized that, I was like, okay, it's kind of dumb that this is just replacing pushing A, but at the same time, I'm getting an extra item slot. So I guess I'm okay with this.
Yeah, because in the GameCube version, it's like X, Y, and Z are your buttons, your item assignments. Whereas on the Wii version, it's the down, left, right on the D-pad.
Yeah,
and B.
And then B was the trigger.
Yeah, because A is your action button.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so and I almost always kept my bow or boomerang on B.
Right.
It's trigger.
I also really liked, and I'm glad that this is still in current Zeldas, including Breath of the Wild. I like aiming your bow and stuff with the pointer.
Yes.
It feels good. And I couldn't see myself going back.
The only time I've had trouble with motion control aiming was in Wind Waker HD, fighting the forest boss first time. When you get the boomerang and you have to cut the little tendrils off.
Things that are
I was having a huge problem like actually aiming and like hitting the target spot.
Yeah,
it was like it wasn't precise enough or something.
yeah.
I don't know.
I feel like I think I played through Wind Waker HD with a Pro controller, so motion controls wasn't even an option for me.
No, I was using the
gamepad.
What is it called? The gamepad.
Yeah.
Thank you. I wanted to say control pad, and I knew that was wrong.
No, that's not it.
I was using the gamepad because I wanted the touchscreen functions.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just like the motion controls. I got super frustrated, and I had to turn it off for that boss fight. But in Breath of the Wild, though, I haven't had any problems with motion controls. They're amazing.
The only problem I have with motion controls in that, and honestly, it's something I have a problem with in every game with motion controls. So it's not the games, it's me. You'll be doing something, and you'll aim like kind of off this way, and then like I'll stop doing whatever it is that put me in that mode where I'm using the motion control. But then before I move my hand back, I've re-engaged it. So now neutral is my hand contorted off this way. And I'm like, well, that was dumb because now I got to do this. But that's me. That's not the game's fault. I should be putting my hand back where it's supposed to be before I try and do this again. So that's the only issue I've ever had with it. And it works. It works really, really well in Breath of the Wild. I know a lot of people when they announced the Joy-Con and they were like, "Oh, it's got motion controls in it again." People are like, "Oh, this again." But no, I think they finally figured out that don't turn this into a gimmick. Make this something that is useful where it's useful and only use it there. And actually, because of that, I got World of Goo and Little Inferno and Human Resource Machine, which were World of Goo was a Wii game. And then the other two were on Wii U. They've also come out for mobile phone and PC and stuff. They use pointer. And even though the Switch doesn't have a traditional pointer because there's not a sensor bar, they did it like Skyward Sword had a pointer.
Yeah.
You just lay the controller down and it calibrates and it's like, okay, straight is, or wherever you want it to be, because then you hold the controller where you want it and you push A and it goes, okay, this is the center of the screen, and now you can move it around and it works really, really well, and I like it. So if you don't like motion controls, I'm sorry. Get with it. Go get an Xbox. There's no motion controls because they abandoned the Kinect like a bad habit.
It still listens to your voice, though.
That's true.
Yeah. But the Twilight Princess HD doesn't have any motion controls whatsoever. I noticed.
Oh, it doesn't. I think I'm playing it with the Pro controller. So
I played through most of it again with the gamepad because I wanted the touch controls. Makes item switching really easy.
Yes.
But I think I got through the final dungeon and right before the castle, and I put it down, because I remember how difficult Dark Beast Ganon was, and I just didn't want to go through that again.
Yep.
I hated that fight.
So speaking of that, and this game gets a lot of crap for the intro because it's so long. It's like so long. World's longest tutorial. It's probably not the world's longest tutorial, but it feels that way.
Minecraft has the world's longest. Yeah. Because it never stops teaching you how to play the game.
Right. Because you're never done with it. There's a mini game that you play toward the beginning where you have to plant your feet and stop It's a well, I
it's a
guess by
sheep.
this point it's a sheep, and you use it again, not that long afterward when
In
you
the
are trying to get
volcano.
into the Gorons. But
Yeah.
this time you need the iron boots. But then it's something that never comes up again. And I remember first time I played through this game was like, man, I had this mechanic that I thought they were going to be using because they made such a big deal out of it, and I never see it. And then you get to the boss fight with Ganon, and it's like, oh, this thing's randomly back.
Yeah.
Where I've got to grab onto, I guess it's Ganon's horns or
He's
whatever.
got tusks because he's like a big pig.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was at that moment it was like, oh, that's kind of cool because I'd almost forgotten about it. And now here it is again.
Yeah.
So it was important, even though I would have been fine with it not being there.
Yeah, I think that's what made it so difficult for me is I had forgotten about this mechanic and I had no idea how to attack him. And so like I think I game over like at least twice and before I gave up and Googled it. I was like, how the heck do I beat this guy? And finally like I saw that and I was like, that is so dumb and I hate this. Okay, let's go. And then I beat
Yeah.
Yeah, that was on the Wii version. Yeah.
Right. So what do you think of what's his name, Zant?
Man, he had so much potential.
Yeah.
Like he seemed so cool, and then in the end, he just ended up being a big idiot.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so upset over that. And I mean, I couldn't be super mad that they tied in Ganon, but it almost seemed like an afterthought. Once I beat the game, I was like, Ganon shouldn't have been the final boss.
Right.
Like it should have been Zant. And I would have been okay with Zant.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you're right. The Ganon being added, it was almost like they got all the way to the end of writing the story, and they're like, "Well, Ganon's not in this. We need to find a way to shovel him in here somehow." And it was kind of cool, He was on trial or something, and his sentence was, but of course, I guess it's really just another way of telling the same story that Zelda's been telling for the last 30 years. A bunch of people got together and banished him to the dark world, and now he's using someone on the other side, like, I don't know, through mind control or just manipulating them into ultimately freeing him. And it had, but I guess like, and this, I guess it's important to point out, this is the only game in the series that's rated T.
Yes.
It's very, very dark. And that's not to say that other games didn't get dark, because let's be real, Majora's Mask is messed up.
Oh, yeah.
That game. I'm surprised that game's not rated T. There's weird stuff in that game. But this is the only game that's rated T. It's very, very dark and brooding, I guess you could say, even though it's still got that lighthearted Zelda-ness to it, especially what's that thing's name? Midna.
Oh yeah.
Midna's very childish and like weirdly joyful throughout.
She's like game. Way too happy for how bad her situation is.
Right. And for a while, like, then when the game finally does that big reveal of she is the princess.
She's the Twilight princess.
Right.
Yes.
Even though I think real early in the game, she makes a reference that kind of makes it seem like Zelda is the Twilight princess.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh wait, no, it's you. And then when you finally learn about her situation, you're like, why are you the way that you are? You're so happy, and no one would blame you for just giving up and being like,
maybe she's gone crazy.
Right. So it is a great story. While we're talking about the story, where because I feel like this game, again, because of the long tutorial and kind of the the half-hearted shoehorning in of motion controls that they did with the Wii. I do feel like this game gets more, at least at the time, it got more flack than it deserved. I suppose maybe now that we're 10 years away from the game and people look back on it, I don't think people look back on it quite as badly as they did when it came out. But like where in Zelda would you like, is this on your list of favorite games or is it somewhere toward the bottom for you? Like I don't want you to like sit here and list out, well, here's my top 10 Zelda games. But
yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's in the top 5 for me.
mm-hmm.
I actually have a list. I took some quiz online, I don't know how it happened, but I know what it was. I took some quiz that said we can guess your top 20 games based on your likes and dislikes, and I was like, okay, fine. And it gave me a list, and I was like, okay, this is actually pretty accurate to me. So yeah. I've kept it, and I don't remember if it ended up being in my top 20 games or not. And so I'm trying to find that right now. And yeah, I'm not finding it, but mm-hmm. It's in my top 10 Zelda games, but I don't think it's top 5.
Yeah,
because they're A Link to the Past, and Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, and Link's Awakening. Like those are probably my top 5.
Right. Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. I wouldn't put it in my top 5, though Wind Waker would be in my top 5, maybe instead of Link's Awakening, although I love Link's Awakening. It's a great game.
Okay, so I found the list finally.
Okay.
It's number 7.
Okay.
Of my top 20. So
I
guess it would be in my top. It's probably number 5 out of the top 5 then.
Yeah. So it's I really like the game. I especially like the world. The world is very interesting and strange. And there's I think it's in this game. There's a side quest where, like, aren't there a bunch of aliens stealing cows?
That's Majora's Mask.
Oh.
That other weird Dark Zelda game.
Okay. Isn't there something weird at a farm in this game though? Maybe not.
You have to round up the sheep.
Yeah. Maybe I am just thinking of Majora's Mask. It's so weird.
I know something weird that happens in Twilight Princess is you meet a Yeti and his wife.
I don't know if I remember that. Is that a side quest?
We go up the mountain and in the snow level.
Man, I need to play this game again.
Really? You don't remember the snowboarding section?
I don't remember that.
You're in the mansion. The Yeti lives in the mansion on top of the mountain.
Oh yeah, because I remember I didn't like that. You go through the mansion castle thing, and I don't remember liking that dungeon.
It's not the best dungeon, but it definitely sticks in my mind.
Yeah,
like this is so weird. Like It's very Zelda.
Yeah, it is very Zelda. Speaking of aliens kidnapping cows, have you watched any of the making of Breath of the Wild stuff that they've put up on YouTube?
No, I wanted to remain spoiler free.
Yeah, I watched the first one. I haven't watched any of the rest of them. And they said they had a forum that all the developers could use, and when they sat down to start making the game, Aonuma and Miyamoto told all the developers, okay, no idea is bad. If you've got an idea for Breath of the Wild, we want to hear it. And one of the ideas was aliens that come in and take cows from a ranch. And I was like, I know that this team is actually a pretty young team at Nintendo. And I'm curious to know if this guy played Majora's Mask and that's where he got it, or if he just thought of it on his own and has no idea that this has already been done.
Oh, man. You know, I think it would have been a nice nod to Majora's Mask if they brought back that minigame.
Yeah, that would have been.
Because there is a day-night cycle.
And yes, there is. It's that game is so good. I actually can't. Okay. I can't wait for Breath of the Wild to be old enough for us to talk about on this show.
Yeah, 10 years from now, we're going to be talking about Breath of the Wild.
It'll be so good.
On March 3rd, 2027.
2027, yep.
We're going to be like, all right, it's the 10-year anniversary.
Yes. When they released Breath of the Wild 8K. Or whatever, 12K or whatever.
VR. When we Nintendo's finally going to do VR correctly.
So music. I really like the music in this game.
Oh my gosh, the orchestral theme for the opening. Well, not even the opening. I guess the Hyrule Field, like the orchestral theme of that. It's one of my favorite Zelda songs ever. Like, yep. I know I really love like Ballad of the Windfish from Link's Awakening. I talk about that a lot. I really like the water song from Ocarina of Time. Wow. Yeah. I love this song and I can't remember what it's called. Better. And then like the couples theme from Majora's Mask. That's also really good. But gosh, just like I get chills when I listen to like the opening theme of Twilight Princess. Like it's just so good, especially the orchestral version from the what is it called? Something of the Goddesses.
Symphony of the Goddesses.
Symphony of the Goddesses. Yes. So good.
See, that was one thing about the Twilight Princess HD that I was kind of disappointed by. So, you know, in the GameCube and the Wii version, it's still a synthesizer. It just sounds really good. And I was like, man, if I wanted them to change anything about Twilight Princess HD, I would maybe not go in and orchestrate the entire soundtrack because that would have taken a long time and been really expensive. But key songs, orchestrate the title sequence, orchestrate Hyrule Field, things like that. And that I think was because the title sequence is beautiful, but that choir is obviously a fake choir. It's just not quite good enough to sound like the real deal. And
you can tell it's just sampling and not actual voices.
I mean, it's
at least still if your ear is good enough, like ours.
Right. It's still good. It's still beautiful. I still like it, but I wish that they would have put a little bit more. And I also recognize that the real reason, I don't know about Wind Waker HD, but the real reason Twilight Princess HD exists is because Nintendo kept having to push back Breath of the Wild, and they're like, we got to give these guys something. So here, have this. So
yeah, they probably found a dev team, and they were like, port this game now.
Right. Please do it.
And they actually did a really good job because they did a lot of retexturing. It wasn't just like up-resing. And so I'm very happy with the HD version.
Yeah. I feel like taking Wind Waker into HD would, and I'm not a developer, I'm not an artist, I don't actually know, I'm just speculating. I would imagine that game was easier to bump up to HD just because of the art style, and Twilight Princess would have been way more complicated because you're trying to make it more realistic, and actually I think I was seeing like people getting close-ups of some of the textures and being like, oh, this is from this game, and I'm like, okay, so did we just not see that in the original version because it wasn't there, or because that was in 480p and we couldn't tell?
Yeah,
no idea. But yeah, it's a good, and now that I'm thinking about that, what timeline is this game in? I don't have my book near me.
Oh gosh,
let's look this up.
Wind Waker is when the hero doesn't return, so it's the adult Link timeline. Yeah. So this is the hero succeeds. So this is the young Link timeline. So this is after Majora's Mask. It's about It's supposed to be like 100 years after the events of Ocarina of Time, so 97 years after Majora's Mask, because that's the same
Mhm.
timeline as Young Link.
Yeah.
Hero succeeds.
Okay. Okay, yeah. Twilight Princess.
If I remember correctly.
So Link. Wait a minute. This doesn't seem right. So I'm just looking at a graphic that I found on the internet. It's not actually a scan of the book.
Hmm.
And it's so they've got Link dies after Ocarina of Time. That it has that the next game is A Link to the Past.
Yeah.
And then the Oracle games.
Yeah.
Then Link's Awakening.
Yeah.
Then the first one, then The Adventure of Link.
Yeah.
That's
the hero dies. Like there's the hero
yeah.
succeeds,
Mm-hmm.
the hero fails, and the hero dies. The hero dies
Right.
is like a separate universe, pretty much.
So Link goes back to warn Zelda is what this.
Yeah, so
that's what it titled this. So that after that,
I would call it the hero succeeds.
Okay, the hero succeeds. Well, but see, then there's also Link defeats Ganon. What is that?
What? Okay. Oh, that would be like the hero fails. So like when adult Link at 7 years later, because the world is destroyed.
Okay. Yeah. So in that timeline, it's got all the Toon Link games. So Wind Waker, Phantom Hourglass, and Spirit Tracks. So this is in Link Goes Back to Warn Zelda, Majora's Mask, then Twilight Princess, and then the Four Swords games.
Oh, the Four Swords are in this? I didn't know that.
It's according to this graphic. So I was hoping to find an actual picture of a scan from. Oh, here's one that's a scan of the.
I think that the Zelda timeline is kind of ludicrous. It seemed like a good idea when it was just a fan theory, and then Nintendo actually like put their stamp of approval on it. Right. I was like, I don't like this anymore. It doesn't seem right.
Yeah, I liked the idea of, and I feel like there's a name for this, but when people are telling the same story, but they have their own spin on it. That's how I liked looking at the series. Yes. Every time you play a Zelda game, you're essentially just playing this family or this time period's version of that story. And yeah, sure, some of them are wildly different. Like obviously Wind Waker, for some reason, those people's version of the story, Hyrule is completely submerged in water. Where the heck did that come from? I don't know. It doesn't matter. The game's fine. But that's what I liked looking at it. And then when this timeline came out, and not just that there's a timeline, but that there is a world where in Ocarina of Time, Link fails.
Yeah.
Like, what? Where did that come from? But I mean, I guess in its own weird way, they made it work, whether I like it or not. So now the big question is, in what timeline does Breath of the Wild fit? Because it seems like there's things from all three timelines.
Yeah.
Are in it. You got the Koroks, which of course are the Toon Link timeline. There's a lot of Link in this definitely looks very similar to the Link in A Link to the Past, because he's got the little the hairdo where the whatever. They're not really sideburns because they're not attached.
That's what they call them in Link Between Worlds.
Yeah. So it's maybe they'll just be like, it doesn't fit the timeline. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I don't think it fits in the timeline. And I think we need to throw out the timeline because of Breath of the Wild and just say they're all separate games.
Yeah.
It makes more sense that way.
Right. I feel like it would be like if Square Enix was like, all right, here's how all the Final Fantasies relate to each other.
Word.
Like, no.
Don't. I think they went out a long time ago and said they're all separate universes, except for the ones that are actually sequels, like 10 and 2 in the 13 trilogy, and like, and there's like a saga around 6, isn't there? Something, or is it 4?
No, 4.
Yes, 4
eventually got a sequel that was on for a while. It was exclusive to WiiWare of all things.
Yeah,
and then I think eventually it came out on Steam and maybe PSN. I don't think.
Well, there's like a prequel also. Platform. Like there's in the PSP version, there's like a whole set of games for Final Fantasy IV.
Oh, maybe there is.
Yeah, like there's there's the After Years, which was the sequel, and there's something else like the Prelude, like Final Fantasy IV Prelude, I think is what it's called. And
I heard of that.
Sorry, I know a lot about RPGs, even though I don't play them.
Yeah. I keep getting told I need to play Final Fantasy 15, and I'm just like, I don't know. I gave up on Final Fantasy after 10.
Okay, but how every fan works for Final Fantasy is, okay, maybe the next one's going to be really good, and then they get disappointed. Like, It's been that way ever since, 10, I guess, depending on how you look at it.
Because I know a lot of people whose favorite Final Fantasy is 10, and 10 to me was the one that made me go, no, I'm done. I don't care about this at all anymore. Now I am, so even though I got off the Final Fantasy cycle, I'm still on the Sonic the Hedgehog cycle. So, Sonic Mania is coming up, and I'm like, no, this is going to be it. This is going to be the one.
Yeah. You know what I found? Is the 3D Sonic games just aren't as good as the 2D Sonic games.
Yes, it's absolutely true. The best 3D Sonic game is the one where half of it's actually a side scroller, and that's Sonic Generations.
Sonic Generations, I actually have that game.
It's pretty good.
Yeah,
it's not amazing, but it's pretty good, and most of that game is a side scroller.
Yep.
So I'm excited for Sonic Mania, and I'll, since it looks like that the one that doesn't really have a title yet that's supposed to come out this year. What do they just call it? Sonic Project 2017 or something. It looks like a sequel to Sonic Generation, so I'll probably wind up blowing money on that and seeing how that works. But yeah, I love the cycles because there's the Sonic cycle. I guess there's the Final Fantasy cycle. You have the Doctor Who cycle. I hate this new guy, but now I like him. Of course, I never got out of I hate this new guy with my experience with it.
Yeah, you watched ones with 9, and then 10 came along, and you're like, I hate him.
Yeah,
you never watched anymore, right?
No, because it was when and if for some reason you're worried about Doctor Who spoilers, I guess go away for about 60 seconds and come back. After 10, Rose gets sent off to that other dimension, and he can't save her. That was the last episode I've seen. I haven't gone back.
Oh, really?
I've had no desire whatsoever to go back and watch it.
Okay, so really, who you liked, it wasn't even the Doctor. You liked Rose.
I did like Rose. I guess I liked Eccleston better than I did Tennant. And I have an argument for that. I felt like and people have tried to explain to me that it's actually 9 is played by, is his name Christopher? I know his last name is Eccleston.
Yeah.
Christopher Eccleston. Doctor Who fans tell me that he's actually the odd one in the group because his character of Doctor Who was so serious, whereas the other people who play him, it seems to be that much more childlike whimsicalness. And that was actually what I didn't like about Tennant, because I felt like here's this guy with all of this power and the ability to go back in time and change so much, and he's a freaking 4-year-old.
Yeah.
And I hated it. And I just never got back.
He doesn't actually seem like a hero. He's just kind of traveling like a tourist almost.
Yeah, and that's what I did.
I will say there is an episode with Tennant where the companion isn't really around.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the Doctor being clever, and it's actually really good.
Yeah.
And it's the episode that made me want to get into Doctor Who. I just saw it randomly on Sci-Fi Channel one day, and I was like, maybe I should look up this show. And then I found out that he usually has a companion, and I was like, oh, this is not at all what I thought it would be.
Yeah.
But it wasn't bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I do like Eccleston, number 9, the best.
Yeah. He's our boy.
When I got into the show, he was the first one that I watched, and
right.
You always remember your first Doctor. And so, wow, that was a big tangent.
Yeah, I know. We got from Zelda to...
We're supposed to be talking about Zelda.
Uh-huh.
So, speaking of timelines and time travel, Twilight Princess doesn't have any time travel.
True.
even though it is a spiritual successor to Ocarina of Time, which does have time travel. It's all about time travel. It suffers from time-itis.
Yep.
Because there's obviously the Ocarina of Time. There's the Door of Time. There's the Song of Time. There's the Pedestal of Time that the
Temple of Time
sword is sitting in. And yes,
it's so what we're talking about that. It's weird how when you think about Zelda, there's like this formula. You go now that formula has just been completely thrown out the window with the latest game. But go find 3 things, pull the sword, go find 7 or 8 or however many more things it is.
Yeah.
And when you're after you pull the sword and you're finding the other things, usually you are in what they would call the dark world. But then I got thinking about like that, and I'm like, well, how many times has that actually been done? Because in Ocarina of Time, you're not in a dark world; you're just in the future, and it's real crappy. Yeah. But you're still in regular old Hyrule. And in Wind Waker, there's no dark world anything.
No. There's gosh, I guess like when you go to Hyrule, like it's under the sea, but it's not really dark or you're not there for very long.
You're really only there for the final boss battle. You don't spend
you were there 2 times. Because you find the Master Sword down there.
Yeah, that's true.
But then you like almost immediately go back to the surface.
Right.
And then you go back down once Hyrule is open to defeat Ganon. That's it.
Yeah. Now, of course, in Twilight Princess, you're constantly bouncing back and forth between the 2. So much like you do in A Link to the Past. Because even when you get to the Dark World, you're not strictly in the dark world. It's I got to go here in the light world and do this and go back to the dark world and all that stuff. And so I got wondering, like, why do we associate this with the series when it really hasn't been done that much? Maybe it's just because the really big popular games do it. And so we're like, oh, this is Zelda.
Yeah, I mean, it was that the formula was established in A Link to the Past and solidified in Ocarina of Time. And so I guess that's why, because Ocarina of Time was like this big deal for gamers.
Yeah.
So like it's I know they really kind of went with it, like this light world and dark world with Twilight Princess. Like it's literally what they call them, just like in A Link to the Past. And I know with A Link Between Worlds, that's just a remake of A Link to the Past, really.
Right.
And it's Hyrule and Lorule. Ha ha, nice pun. Yeah, and it's just the big games, because you look at the handheld games like A Link's Awakening. Like there's no dark world in that. You don't even leave the island. Like you're just traveling around in the same place. Or where else? The Oracle games. Yeah, it's 2 games, but it's 2 different places. It's not like Oracle of Ages. Well, I guess Oracle of Ages, you do time travel between like the past and the future, and depending on where you are, things are all messed up. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, Oracle of Seasons, like it's a different game. You're in a different land. Like you change seasons, but you don't really go anywhere.
Yeah, you're not time traveling.
The 4 Swords, you're traveling over a version of Hyrule. Trying to think of other ones. There's Spirit Tracks. You're traveling over
on a train.
Yeah,
I haven't played that game, but
what was the one that came before it? Well, there's Phantom Hourglass. Yeah. That's like New Hyrule. And
then where's Minish Cap fit in all that?
Yeah, I have no idea. I think Minish Cap is because Phantom Hourglass is supposed to be right after Wind Waker, I think, because like they sail off at the end of Wind Waker, and so Phantom Hourglass, like the new Hyrule is established after they've sailed off.
Yeah.
And gosh, so yeah, where does Minish Cap fit in this?
I don't know. So in the Toon Link games,
yeah,
are they all the same Link?
No.
Okay.
Because
the only one I've played is Wind Waker. I haven't played that one.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Phantom Hourglass is the same Link. I haven't really played them either, but I know Spirit Tracks takes place years later because they developed train technology, so it's a different Link.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah. Zelda's weird.
It is.
But we like it because we keep buying it and playing it and clamoring for it.
And it doesn't have a I hate it cycle like Final Fantasy.
That's true. There's not really a this is gonna be the one. No, because they're all. I mean,
they're all the one.
Some of them aren't as good as others, but none of them are like, oh, that was terrible. Why does that exist? At least not that I can think of. I can't think of one that I've played. Well, I guess there are some people out there that would say The Adventure of Link is bad and should not be a thing. But
it's not a bad game. It's just not a game I would enjoy.
Yeah. That's how I feel about. So I traded. I know I've told this story. I traded my PS4 in for my Switch, and I kept my Xbox One. And you know, I just keep telling people like, look, it's just I'm more interested in what's coming out for the Xbox than I am for the PlayStation. And then I get that. Why do you think PlayStation games are bad? And I went, I didn't say that. I'm sure that Horizon Zero Dawn or whatever it's called, I'm sure it's amazing. I'm just not interested. That doesn't mean I think it's bad. I just don't care. I don't like Killzone. I don't like, you know, does that mean, well, I guess most shooter fans don't like Killzone, so maybe I could argue that I think Killzone's a bad game.
You said you didn't like The Last of Us.
Nope. Didn't like it. I'm not going to sit here and say that because somebody does like it that they're wrong. Now, I did and do still make the case that all the like perfect scores that it got, I'm like, I have no idea where that came from because that game is far from what I would consider to be a 10 out of 10. But I think it's reasonable that it's a 7 or 8 or even a 9 out of 10. Yeah. And actually, when Breath of the Wild was getting all those perfect scores, and then what's his name? That guy that gave it a 7, and everyone lost their mind over it because that score lowered it on Metacritic. Oh, yeah.
Because it had a perfect score on Metacritic for a while. Yeah, that guy came along.
Right, and when I haven't read his review, but I know he gave it a 7 out of 10 on his scale, and there are certainly things about Breath of the Wild that I don't know that if I were in a position where I was having to give it a review score that these things would have knocked it down for me, but I get it. Like, there are things, there's just changes that were made. There's a lot of changes from Breath of the Wild, you know, from the previous games in the series that I'm like, okay, I get this. This feels really good. I like this. But there's other things they changed, and I'm like, I don't know why you messed with that. There was nothing wrong with it the way that it was before, and I don't see that what you changed about it for this game added anything. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and say, I don't understand why there's a jump button.
In Breath of the Wild?
Yeah, I've never come across a place where I've wanted to jump where Link wouldn't have just done it automatically in one of the old games. It's never happened that I can think of. Because now you Z target and you want to do the jump attack. Well, now that's 2 buttons. It used to be 1 button.
Yeah, you have to Z target. You have to hit jump and then attack.
And then you have to attack. And it used to just be an attack button. Most of the time when I want to jump, it's to jump up to a ledge. Link used to do that automatically. It's to jump off a ledge. Link used to do that automatically. Or it's to climb something. Link used to do that automatically. So when I look at it, and like, this isn't a platformer. So like as far as I'm concerned, jump is just taking up a button press on the controller, and I don't know why it's there. Now again, I'm not saying that makes this game worse than other games. It's just a design decision that I'm like, I don't know why you did this. It
Well, I
doesn't make any
mean, you
sense to
look at a
me.
lot of the other open world games, and it's it's kind of similar. Like it's not a platformer, but there's a dedicated jump button, and it's it's used a lot of times for like vaulting over things or jumping on top of things, which they figured out how to do automatically a long time ago in Zelda.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, maybe they're just trying to make it more like other games where there's a dedicated button for it.
Right.
I don't know.
And that could be. I also miss and I realize it's not a super big deal in this game because all of your items are weapons. So like I guess all of your items are already mapped to a button.
Yeah.
But like I kind of miss having those. Here's 3 items that like boomerangs in this game aren't strictly boomerangs.
Yeah, they're melee weapons.
That they're melee weapons that if you happened see, and this was something I didn't do. April, my wife, was the one who said, "Oh yeah, I threw a boomerang and it came back to me." And I'm like, "Why didn't I think to do that?" I just failed away on people because I'm like, "Oh, this boomerang is a sword now somehow," and it just I never thought to throw it. And then in this game, when you throw it, you actually have to be standing somewhere where it's going to come back. It's not like in the previous Zeldas where you could throw it and it didn't matter where you were, it would come back to you. And so that's neat.
And you have to catch it.
Do you? I still haven't thrown one.
Yeah, when you throw a boomerang, okay, you can't really move a whole lot. Like you have to, that there's like a throw button. You have to hold the throw button, right, and then release it to throw. You may or may not hit your target.
Right.
And you can't move very much. And then you have to catch it. You have to press the A button to catch it. Okay. And so you're pretty vulnerable the whole time. Like it's flying through the air.
Right.
And yeah. What else is the problem with the boomerangs? The durability. Like it's very possible that when you throw it, it'll break.
Yeah. And that's a mechanic that I thought the longer I play, the less annoyed by it I am.
Yeah.
But I'm still annoyed by it. I'm like, no, this is something that I wish I'm okay that it's there for people who like it, but I wish something existed in the game that was like, this won't break. And that's something that I don't have to deal with if I don't want to. And unfortunately, and actually, so I said this was going to be spoiler free, but if you listened to what I just said, you probably pieced together that meant that the one sword in the game you would think doesn't break still kind of follows the rules of that mechanic, and I think is dumb.
Yeah.
But that's just me. But then there's other things that I just miss. Like I walked into Kakariko Town and I didn't hear da 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 da. It was a new song. And
yeah,
like,
it was.
Oh, that was weird.
I mean, they did they keep that for Twilight Princess?
Yes, it's
okay.
It's played on a flute and it's very, very different, but that theme is still in it.
Yes.
And so that's again, most of the things that I'm complaining about here are not things that would make me go, oh no, it's a 9 out of 10. I still think that the game that Nintendo created is about as close to perfect as it could possibly be. All of the things that I'm complaining about are really just because Zelda has a 30-year history. And so if this were a new IP, none of this stuff would be bothering me. I understand that. And so I don't look at it as reasons to knock the game. They're just things that I miss that I wish were still. Like, I liked that when I went into Zora's Domain, they still kind of played the Zora music.
Yes.
Like, oh, this is familiar. I like
you heard the harp starting it out, and
and it's fun, and it's just. But Kakariko Village was different. There's no Hyrule theme.
Yeah,
there's not really music at all, unless you're. I mean, like there's some you hear little piano trills and things like
Depending
that.
on the weather, like the music changes.
Oh, dude, the weather in the game is freaking amazing. It's not really amazing when you're halfway up a mountain and it starts raining.
It starts raining. You can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And because it's raining, you can't light a fire for the weather to wait for the weather to go by.
Yeah. So to kind of bring it back around to Twilight Princess, a question was asked on another podcast that I listened to, and I wanted to kind of talk about it. It was with Breath of the Wild being what it is, as big as it is, can we go back to how Zelda used to be?
Oh, man. See, and I always thought Twilight Princess was a really big Zelda game. Because, like, you get out there on your horse, and it's just wide open fields. And it's like, it takes a few minutes to get, like, from, I don't know, the forest all the way up to the castle town. Like,
right.
It's a big game to me. Like, at the time, it seemed. And now, like, in Breath of the Wild, you could ride for almost an hour from one end of the map to the other. Like,
well, I've spent so much time in this game and not done probably anywhere close to half of what there is to do. And for as much time as I've spent in this game, I could have beaten 2 other Zelda games.
I'm curious. It does kind of track how many hours you put into the game.
Yeah, a little bit.
Kind of.
If you have the parental control app on your phone, that weirdly gives you more information about that than the Switch itself does.
All right. So I've played 70 hours or more, and I'm not even a quarter of the way through the game. Because I've just been farting around so much. Like, yeah. That did not happen in Twilight Princess. And I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing.
So I've thought about this question because I'm kind of, well, and actually for a while I had assumed that we're probably not going to get Zelda after Zelda after Zelda that's this big because the development cycle was really long. It was really expensive. It's not something that Nintendo generally likes doing. I mean, Majora's Mask literally exists because they wanted to reuse as much of Ocarina of Time as they possibly could.
Well,
keep the budget under.
Yeah, the directive was, we want to make a new Zelda game. Okay, make it for as cheap as possible.
Yeah. And so that's not to say that Nintendo's not okay spending a whole bunch of money on something new, but considering how much money they spent on making Breath of the Wild, I just couldn't imagine that, like, okay, the next one we're going to get is going to take 5 years to make and all this stuff. But in an interview recently, E.G. Aonuma said, yeah, 3D Zeldas are probably going to be like this going forward. And so I was like, well, okay, my assumption was wrong. Now, of course, we're going to still get your top-down 2D Zeldas. And maybe that's what's going to scratch my Zelda itch. But I don't, like, for as much as I'm loving Breath of the Wild, and I love the little nods, like, I like finding the Koroks. I like, when I found the Master Sword, I wasn't looking for it. I didn't even occur to me that I was in the area that it probably was in. I just turned a corner and I'm like, what the heck? There it is. It's just there. Now I didn't have what was necessary for me to pull it yet. So I wasn't able to do anything with it, but like I know where it is.
That post, it was kind of funny.
Yeah. So there's all that, but there are things about, like, the shrines are great and the divine beasts are great, but there's something about walking into the forest temple for the first time and knowing I'm going to be in here for anywhere between 30 minutes and an hour trying to get through this, to get the puzzles. I'm going to find this item. Like, I miss the hook shot. I understand why the hook shot doesn't make any sense in this world that it's Breath of the Wild, but I miss having it. There was really, especially in Twilight Princess.
Twilight Princess, the double claw shots.
The double claw shots was so awesome.
Oh my gosh.
So
you get to be Spider-Man.
Yeah. It was so freaking amazing. The first time I hook onto something and I'm like, wait, like from right here I can go somewhere else. This is so cool.
Yes.
And even though you've got the paraglider in Breath of the Wild and you can climb up anything, those are still very slow ways of traveling. The hook shot is I grab onto something and within a second I'm over there. Mm-hmm. There's nothing like that, at least not that I've come across. And Breath of the Wild is so big, for all I know, I will find something that serves that purpose, but I haven't seen anything like it yet, and I don't think it's there.
I don't think so either.
I do miss there is something weirdly comforting about, like, we complain about too much familiarity, but there's something nice about a little bit of it. Like that first time you wake up from whatever wakes you up, whether it's Zelda's talking to you in a dream or the world's most annoying fairy bust down your door, and then like within 10 or 15 minutes you've found your first sword, and you know, okay, this sword is going to be with me for the next several hours. And in Breath of the Wild, everything's just, oh, you found a sword and it's probably going to break in 5 minutes. You don't gain any kind of like attachment to anything because you can't, because it's going to break. Yeah. Everything is disposable in Breath of the Wild. Even horses to an extent are disposable. You lose your horse, you just go catch another one. Like whatever.
Yeah.
And so I miss the kind of weird attachment that I would get to. Like in every Zelda game, I have a favorite item. I don't really have that in this. I have favorite types of items, I guess, but there's not one in particular that I'm like, no, this is my thing, and this is what I like. So yeah.
So what is your favorite item in Twilight Princess? Is it the double claw shots?
Oh yeah, easily.
Yeah. Okay.
No question about that. I love that.
I liked the boomerang, how they kind of made it fit like why it always comes back to you and why it picks up items, is that it's possessed by a wind fairy.
Yeah.
I liked that idea. It's like, it makes sense within the world. Because like you look at other Zelda games and it's like, okay, boomerangs don't pick up things in real life. And they don't always come back to you no matter where you are. They fly in an arc.
Right.
They come back to where they were thrown, not to where you are.
Mm-hmm. And I also miss, and I realize this apparently happens way more often than I am aware of, because I don't sit around doing it very much. But that feeling of cutting grass and there's just money there, or there's just health there. Or I realize
there are things in the grass in Breath of the Wild.
Yes. And it was something that I actually had to have April tell me, because she's like, oh yeah, I cut grass down and I found this thing. And I'm like, I guess I just haven't stopped to cut the grass. Because I just did nothing
by accident. I was like fighting an enemy in tall grass, and like it's like, what? Where did that come from?
Right. And I don't know, and I realized that, they. Oh, and okay, so everything in this game, down, weapons, monster parts, whatever it is, to pick it up, you have to press A.
Oh yeah.
Except rupees.
Yep.
You don't have to push A to pick up rupees, and it's like
you just automatically pick them up.
You just pick them up. Why isn't everything like this? I mean, I get why weapons aren't like that. You might not want the weapon, but like bokoblin guts. Well, obviously, I don't want. Of
course, I have 300 of them, and I still want more. Like, come on.
There's not a limit to how many of these things I can pick up. Now, picking up lizards and bugs and stuff, well, that I get, because heck, sometimes I don't even know I'm near one until the game's like, hey, push A to grab this. And I push A to grab what?
Instinctively do it, right?
Yeah, so I do it. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that was there.
Yeah, you just see the prompt. You're like, hey, yes, what is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I miss that feeling of, and it's more of a thing in, I guess, in top-down Zeldas because of the view, but it would happen in Ocarina of Time. You'd walk into a new area and you'd be like, oh, there's a piece of a heart over here. How do I get there? And I don't have that feeling in Breath of the Wild. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, to the question, can we go back to the way Zelda used to be? I absolutely could, because there are things Breath of the Wild's not doing that it's just not, like I said, it's not, certain things about the Zelda itch are not being scratched by this game. That's not a bad thing. It just means I would absolutely be fine with Nintendo being like, okay, we're going to make Ocarina of Time 2, or I guess 3 because Twilight Princess is Ocarina of Time too.
Yeah.
I would be fine with that.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I would like to see them take Breath of the Wild and like do something different with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, you're not in Hyrule or the land surrounding it. It's somewhere else, and you're not fighting Ganon. You're on a different quest.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be a good thing to do with the style of Breath of the Wild. I don't know what to say. With the engine.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the same time, I do want a little more familiarity, like you got in Twilight Princess and Ocarina of Time, those games.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, because if there's a game that I could just pick up and play to completion very easily on the N64, it's Ocarina of Time. Like,
yeah.
I've beaten it more times than I can remember. And like, there's only one other game I can say that about, and that's Super Mario World. Like, yeah.
Not Banjo-Kazooie?
Not Banjo-Kazooie. I've beaten Banjo-Kazooie 6 times.
Yeah. And what was I going to say? Now I don't even remember. But yeah, Breath of the Wild is great. Twilight Princess is great. Oh, another weird thing about Twilight Princess, just because I'm thinking about it. This is also the one Zelda game where you got to collect 5 pieces of a heart to get a whole heart.
Yes,
which weird.
Which makes for more pieces of heart to get.
Yeah, I mean, 20. It's more stuff to find. It's cool, but it's the only time
different. Yeah, I learned about that before I picked up the game, and I was like, I don't know how I feel about this, but I really like the way the pieces of heart and the heart containers look in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a big jewel, and it's really cool. I like it.
Yeah.
Although I will say, it's not my favorite heart piece design or heart container design.
What is your favorite?
It's the same one they use in Breath of the Wild. It's Skyward Sword.
Yeah.
The heart containers from Skyward Sword and Breath of the Wild are really, really cool looking. Mm-hmm. The gold filigree or whatever, it's really cool. I like it.
I would like keep something like that in my house.
Yeah, I've seen actual jewelry on Etsy that's designed after that. And
I mean,
I'm like
that or like a throw pillow that looks like that or something.
Yeah, I think those exist too.
Probably. I can't imagine that they wouldn't.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a good game. You guys should, if you're one of the 14 million people in the world that have a Wii U, definitely get Twilight Princess HD. If you
it's worth it.
Have it, it's absolutely worth it. And even Wind Waker HD was great too. I think we talked about Wind Waker on the show a while back, and it's they're fantastic games. And okay, so speaking of, we talked a little bit about the battle in Twilight Princess and just how the waggle and all that stuff. I do gotta say, if they're gonna revisit a battle system from this series, Wind Waker, I still love the fighting in Wind Waker. That you can do the dodging and roll around behind them, and I loved it.
Wind Waker combat is easy mode, in my opinion.
But it's so much fun, and it's flashy, and it looks really cool. And
But one of the things that people like Zelda for is the combat is challenging. It's not hard like Dark Souls. Like, holy crap, that game is.
That's
people like Dark Souls because for the challenge of that, but it's like that's punishingly difficult. Right. Whereas in Zelda, like it's a fun challenge. But in Wind Waker, in my opinion, it was almost too easy.
It was pretty much
there was no challenge
and wait for the game to tell you to push A. And
do that. Wind Waker, the combat was not challenging at all. It was fun, but it wasn't challenging, and I didn't like that.
Okay, so if they would do that, but do it like they do in Breath of the Wild, because in Breath of the Wild, there's this thing called the flurry attacks.
Oh yeah.
The closest thing I can think of to it is if you've played Bayonetta, there's Witch Time,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's other games that do it, but this is the one I'm familiar with. You wait for an attack to come at you, and you do a dodge at just the right time, and time will slow down, and you can basically just wail away on them.
You just
So
mash
what
the
if?
attack button. Yeah.
Yeah. So what if they brought back the battle system from Wind Waker, but they didn't flash on the screen when you were supposed to do it? You had to judge it for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because flurry attacks in Breath of the Wild, there's nothing in the game telling you, "Oh, do this now." In fact,
there's no prompt. It's hard to pull off.
If Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword were like the worst hand holding in any Zelda game ever, Breath of the Wild was push you out of the nest and hope you don't die on the way down.
It's your uncle throwing you in the pool, teaching you to swim.
Yeah, and then your mom comes up like, "What'd you do that for?" Yeah, he'll be fine.
Yeah.
Except in this game, unlike in real life, if you die, you get to try again. If you come in the pool, your uncle just goes to jail.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I feel like I could talk about Breath of the Wild all day.
Yeah, we are trying to talk about Twilight Princess.
And I think we did a decent job of it.
We haven't moved on to the next section, really. Well, I guess we've been talking about the impact of Twilight Princess this whole time about Breath of the Wild.
Without it being formal. Because there are... I think Twilight Princess would be the closest thing. If Breath of the Wild is just absolute... the first Zelda game would be the closest thing to Breath of the Wild, because that was truly open. Like Breath of the Wild is, Twilight Princess is... It feels incredibly open. Now I will say, when it's not super open, it just feels that way. Because the map is so big. But it is pretty darn linear, because it's definitely pushing you to, like, you need to go this way. Yeah, I don't think it's quite as blatant as you first get on the boat in Wind Waker, and you're like, I'm gonna go wherever I want, and the king's like, just flat out, no, you can't go there. You need to turn around.
Yep.
It's I don't think Twilight Princess
says, where are you going? We need to go over here. And he stops and says, go that way.
Right. and then you want to be like, shut up. I make call the shots around here.
It's a stupid boat. He was the best companion, actually, because he didn't hardly talk to you.
That's true. Well, it says he wasn't with you constantly. Yeah. And even I guess Midna's constantly with you, but she's not anywhere near as annoying as Navi.
Or Fi.
Yeah, or Fi or Fi or whatever.
I've heard that it actually is Fi, because that's how it's spelled in Japanese.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's how you pronounce Google Fi, their phone service.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's Fi. And that's the first time that I heard, like, someone with an official capacity pronounce that word, and I went, oh, okay. It was nice playing Breath of the Wild, and someone tells you to go to Kakariko Village, and he pronounced it the way that I pronounced it, and I'm like, oh, yay, I didn't screw that one up.
Yeah, Kakariko, yeah. That's how I've always said it.
That's how I've always said it, too. But there are, like, made-up words in video games that, like, the first time it gets spoken, I go, I've been saying it wrong for 20 years. I don't in my life.
Okay.
I don't know what to do anymore.
Tangent. The Russian bear fighter in Street Fighter 2. How do you pronounce his name?
I don't
You know who I'm talking about, Mohawk beard.
But I want to
Yeah, I don't want to say his name, because then you'll say, oh yeah, it's pronounced that way.
Let me see. Oh wait, man, Street. I just searched Russian bear fighter, and I was like, that's not
right.
Okay, yeah. See, I say Zangief.
Okay, most people say Zangief, but there are select few that say Zangief, because I don't know, German pronunciation rules or whatever. But he's Russian, not German.
Right.
And in the Sega Genesis version of Street Fighter 2, it actually had voice sampling for all the character names.
Okay.
So you select your fighter, and it would say the character's name, and it was horrible, but whatever. because the Genesis sound card was awful. But in Genesis, it said Zangief.
Huh.
And so the people that say Zangief are the ones who grew up playing on the Genesis instead of the Super Nintendo or arcade. Because you look at it and say it's Zangief. Like, come on. And it wasn't until Wreck-It Ralph.
Yep.
When Zangief said his own name. That it was like established that is the pronunciation of Zangief. And yeah. Sometimes it takes like that kind of thing where like in a game or in a movie, somebody's saying the name for it to be like, yeah, you select few have been saying you're wrong your whole life.
Right. What is it he says in that? He crushes man's skull like sparrow egg between the thighs.
Yes. Right, yeah. Well, the one that everybody was just because you are a bad guy does not mean you are a bad guy. Or no, just because you are a bad guy does that mean you are a bad guy. Yeah, that's how he says it.
Or when he's like, "Thanks, Satan. It's Satan."
It's Satan. Yes.
There's a sequel to that movie coming out, and I loved the first one, but that's one of those movies where I'm like, do we need another one of these?
I don't know. They left it open, but it doesn't need one. But it's called Wreck-It Ralph. Wrecks the Internet. Ralph Wrecks the Internet. Something like that.
Oh.
That's what it's called.
Yeah.
It's not Wreck-It Ralph 2. It's Ralph Wrecks the Internet.
That's weird. But I remember thinking, do we need another Toy Story? And I really like Toy Story 2 and 3. So
yeah. Maybe. I don't know about 4 though, because Andy's not in it anymore.
Yeah, Andy's not in it. And Pixar's not always great with their sequels, because what didn't need a sequel was Cars.
Yeah.
It certainly didn't.
We're getting Cars 3.
I know. No,
why?
I don't know.
You know what didn't need a spin-off either was Cars, and it got 2 of those.
Yeah, but I actually liked Planes better than Cars. That's not to say I liked Planes. It was still a dumb movie. I just liked it better than Cars. Did it get a second one? Planes?
Isn't there like a boats or something?
Maybe. Oh, that would be so awful.
I know Planes got a sequel. It got a Fire and Rescue.
Oh yeah, that like went straight to. I almost said straight to video, but it probably went straight to streaming these days.
Yeah.
I guess
straight to home viewing.
Straight to
you could buy it on video.
Yeah.
But you know what really needs a sequel? The Incredibles. Come on.
I like The Incredibles. I like The Incredibles a lot. I don't know that it needs a sequel.
Yes, it does.
But I do like
every superhero movie needs a sequel. Come on. It is the best Fantastic Four movie that has ever been made.
That is true. But to be fair, there are not any actual good Fantastic Four movies.
I had high hopes for Silver Surfer. I really wanted Rise of the Silver Surfer to be good because he's one of my favorite Marvel characters.
Yeah.
And it just was not good.
I'm being cautiously optimistic about the new Spider-Man movie, because I feel like that's a series that has wronged me too many times for me to just.
In Civil War.
He was, but that doesn't mean the movie's going to be any good.
Yeah, I know.
Because it's still Sony.
Yeah, I'm going in with low expectations this time. Because I didn't absolutely hate the new Fantastic Four movie because I went in with low expectations.
I don't think I saw it because I decided I didn't want to.
Don't see it.
Yeah.
Did you see the new Power Rangers movie?
No, and everybody keeps telling me it's good, and I'm like, see, I expected people to tell me it was okay. I did not expect people to tell me it was good.
I have a friend who told me it's a lot like the new Fantastic Four movie, in that it's just a lot of build-up.
Yeah.
Like that's all it is. Like, so.
I don't know, maybe. Okay, so here's what needs to happen. So you were talking about The Incredibles. This is what I love about the show, because we're not even talking about video games anymore. The Incredibles, you're talking about. So Disney owns Pixar.
Yeah.
Disney owns Marvel.
Yeah.
Marvel Cinematic Universe doesn't have access to the Fantastic Four because of Fox. So just stick The Incredibles in it. And and I know people are going to be like, well, one's live action, one's a cartoon. No, I'm sorry. 80% of what you see in a Marvel movie is cartoon. It just looks realistic. Yeah. There's no reason we couldn't put The Incredibles in here, and it worked just fine. So
I mean, I don't see why they can't find 4 people to play The Incredibles.
Yeah.
You know?
Who was well no because he plays what's his face and because I was gonna say like The Rock really couldn't be Mr. Incredible because he's just not quite the right body type. I mean he's big, but
Yeah.
Mr. Incredible is also kind of he's got muscles, but he's a little chunky too. So I
He's
was
a little
thinking,
chunky, and he never did leg day. It's not that he skipped leg day; he never did it.
right. so who I was thinking of was but he plays what's his name in Guardians of the Galaxy, so he's already a Marvel character.
Oh, the guy that plays Drax.
Yeah, he's a wrestler, I think.
Yeah, I can't remember his name.
Yeah,
he's an MMA fighter. I thought.
Oh, maybe he is. I don't know. I don't follow him.
Oh no, I can't remember his name.
Is it Batista or something?
Yes, John Batista.
Okay. Yeah, that's it. So, yeah, there's no reason this couldn't happen. Make it happen, Disney.
Make
Incredibles are just now part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe until Fox, look, you can just keep screwing around with Fantastic Four. Literally nobody cares.
Yeah.
Was Logan good? I keep hearing it was fantastic. I haven't seen it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I saw both the other Wolverine specific movies and they were just
I liked the Wolverine. It was not bad.
Yeah.
Wolverine Origins was terrible.
So bad. So bad what they did to like you get Ryan Reynolds to play Deadpool and you take his mouth away. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, I know. Like, come on. It totally ruined that. And I love how the Deadpool movie this is the biggest mistake I ever made, and it cuts to the action figure of the Wolverine Deadpool.
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about?
I have not seen Deadpool, but I've seen
my gosh.
I've seen that like as a GIF or something. I know I need to see Deadpool. I want to see it so bad.
Anyway, how are we gonna bring this back to Twilight Princess?
I feel like we should just I don't know. I almost feel like
Link is a superhero.
Right. And he doesn't talk. And I guess he does in Breath of the Wild. There's even a few characters that even hint at that. They're like, oh yeah, he talks. It's just the only dialogue that you ever see that he has is him answering questions.
Yeah,
nothing else happens.
See, I've never been of the opinion that Link is mute. He's just a silent protagonist.
Yeah.
He talks, but you don't ever hear him talk.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a Japanese thing.
Right. Because Chrono's like that in Chrono Trigger. The other characters definitely respond to things that he says, even though you have no idea what he said outside of the context that they give. I liked how, and I guess you probably haven't played it since you don't like JRPGs, but in Super Mario RPG, Legend of the Seven Stars, he communicates through miming.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious.
Yeah. In that, yeah. It almost seems like Mario is mute in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's just supposed to be the silent protagonist.
Yeah.
And they kept that for the Paper Mario games also.
Yeah, Paper Mario is really good.
I don't know about the Mario and Luigi games. I've not seen any of those.
I have not played any of them.
Yeah.
My brother's really big into them, and I feel like Luigi does a lot of talking and Mario doesn't.
Yeah, I know in Paper Mario, Luigi does all the talking, really.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
GT there.
Silent protagonist. He's not mute.
Yep. So
you can actually see him in Skyward Sword. He's talking, but there's music playing over it.
Yeah.
And the camera's pulling away. And,
does he have hand motions and stuff? Or maybe he's a little animated.
Yeah, what it is he's explaining what happened to the headmaster. And so he's like, and then this thing, and then this thing, and da 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 da. But you don't hear what he's saying. You hardly see his mouth moving, and it's an over the shoulder from behind. The camera's pulling away, so unless you're really paying attention, you won't notice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So does before we wrap up, because I do got to go here soon. In Twilight Princess, so in Wind Waker, one of the benefits to it being a cartoon was how expressive Link's face was.
Yes.
He'd walk into a room and he'd look at something, and his eyes would go over there too. I feel like that happened in Twilight Princess also. You wouldn't necessarily notice it quite as well because his face isn't gigantic.
Yeah, it's not as stylized. Yeah,
right.
So
Were they the same engine? Wind Waker and Twilight
No,
Princess?
no.
Okay, I mean, obviously the graphics aren't the same, but I didn't know
Like,
if
I
maybe they were
don't.
running on the same
Well, they of course they're not the same
base.
engine. The combat's completely different.
Oh yeah. So,
Um,
anyway,
I can't think of an instance in Twilight Princess where like Link is like super expressive like that in Wind Waker. I think he does talk to the mayor of wherever you start. What's his name?
oh,
The guy with like the
he's got that
horns for
wicked.
eyebrows.
Yeah, doesn't he have a wicked mustache too?
Yeah, he does.
Was it oh
Oron, yes, the mayor of Oron Village.
yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know
Link
his
explains to
name.
him like what happened to his daughter.
Oh
Which,
yeah.
by the way, this is one of the few games where Link actually has a love interest. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, what's her
And that
name?
uh
Ilya.
yeah. And that's something that a lot of people who even people I feel like who play Zelda games, they think that Link and Zelda are a thing. And it's like,
But
no,
that's not true.
that's literally happened in one of them, and it was the last one.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even like a long time ago it happened, and you just think it's been that way in every game. No, it literally happened in the most recent one, besides the one that came out a month ago. You know, so
Yeah.
this has only been a
Like,
thing for about 5 years.
yeah, it's kind of like because people have wanted this to happen for so long, they're like, okay, fine, for the 25th anniversary, we'll make it happen.
Yeah,
Is almost how it seemed in Skyward Sword.
right.
Yeah.
And it's not even like it's like Link like Zelda, but the feelings aren't mutual, or the other way around. There's just no. They're friends.
Yeah.
If they're even that. Sometimes they're just like the only reason they know each other at all is because of the situation that they're in. So even
Because they're
calling them
tied to the
friends,
Triforce.
right? So even calling them friends is kind of a stretch. It's really they're acquaintances. Because in Ocarina of Time, I kind of always felt like the daughter at Lon Lon Ranch kind of like Link.
Yes. Oh, she totally had a thing for him.
Yeah, but of course, since Link's so unexpressive in that game, who knows if he felt the same way about her. And then in Twilight Princess, there's Link and what'd you say her name was?
Ilya.
Ilya. Yeah, there's no romantic anything in A Link to the Past.
Zelda is your.
Yeah. and
She's
then
my wife.
and then in Wind Waker, I mean they're just kids, so they're just hanging out.
She actually she's kind of tsundere in that she likes picking on Link.
Right. Mm-hmm.
She doesn't actually have feelings for him. She just likes being mean to him.
Yes.
Which some people would interpret as
like, ooh, you
feelings.
like him, and yeah.
Yeah, but no.
It's nothing. Link's way more interested in finding his sister
Yeah.
than anything related to Zelda at all. So yeah, that's and I couldn't remember in this game because so there was a little I don't even know that I'd call it a controversy because it was stupid. But so if you're listening to this, you probably know who Anita Sarkeesian is. Leave my opinion of her out of this because I don't want this to turn into me hating on somebody. But she tweeted something when Breath of the Wild came out about it being misogynist because it's about a damsel in distress. And so I went back and I was thinking about the Zelda games and in what games she would have even fit that. Now, while I disagree with the argument that that's what Mario and Peach's relationship is, I think if you just look on the surface of those games, sure, that there's an argument to be made there. But in Zelda, in most of the games, Link is incapable of defeating Ganon without her help. Yep. Similarly, she's incapable of defeating Ganon without Link. They need each other. And the game that I can think of that this happens the most prominently in is Ocarina of Time. you defeat Ganondorf. The castle crumbles. He comes back as Ganon, and you're fighting him. And there comes a point when Zelda actually has to hold him down with her power. So, because I think what it is didn't Ganon knock the Master Sword out of Link's hand?
Yeah, he knocks it out, and you got to go get it.
Right. So. I feel like is that something that happens in Twilight Princess? Because again, I didn't get to the end of the game.
Yeah, in Twilight Princess, once the final fight with Ganon, after you defeat Dark Beast Ganon, so it's kind of like the opposite of Ocarina of Time.
Oh yeah.
Then you actually fight Ganondorf. Yeah, and you're on horseback, and she's firing the light arrows. Right. In Ocarina of Time, she gives you the light arrows, so you fire them yourself. But in Twilight Princess, she's firing the light arrows. She's riding on the back of your horse. So you are literally like together fighting him. Like it's not like she's over here holding him off like in Ocarina of Time, and a little bit in Wind Waker, where she's like using her magical powers to keep him in place. Like you're literally in the same place, working together to fight Ganondorf.
Yeah. And it's strongly implied that if one of you weren't there, Ganon would win this fight.
Yes, absolutely. Like you need the light. You have to kind of aim your horse at Ganondorf so Zelda can fire a light arrow to stun him, so that you can hit him with the Master Sword. Like otherwise, he's untouchable.
Right. So this ridiculous idea.
The light arrows don't actually hurt him; they only stun him.
Right.
Like so, there's nothing Zelda can do to defeat him, and there's nothing Link can do to defeat him. They have to work together.
And I would say that that's even the case in, and I know there's not much of a story in the first Zelda, and I'm not familiar with Link's Adventure enough to know this, but even in Link to the Past, you can't even gain access to Ganon without not just Zelda, but 6 other women.
Yes, that's right. You have to. I mean, yes, they're captured. Kind of helpless. They are captured. You have to go rescue them, but you need their help.
Yeah,
is why
they are necessary to this.
Yeah.
So it's just this. Yeah, Zelda's not a damsel, and she's especially not a damsel in Skyward Sword. She's most of the time she's one step ahead of you. Yeah, you're just following her.
In Ocarina of Time, spoilers, she's out like being a ninja the whole time.
Yeah. It's just and if you don't know that, where have you been?
Where have you been?
So, I really need to wrap it up. So let's. We're gonna play. Yeah, hey, we can actually play the. Well, we can't play the Metacritic score because there's only
because you know it, and so I get one shot.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me go look it up real quick.
I'm gonna aim high and say 88. Am I right or wrong?
Okay. Let's see. You're under.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. So that means you didn't go over, which means you win.
Okay.
It is what do you want to try and guess again, see if you can get closer?
Okay, if I'm under at 88, then 89.
No.
No. I'm surprised it's over 90. Wow.
It's the Metacritic score is 95.
Huh.
And I this is the listing for the Wii game. I don't know if that means there's a different listing for GameCube or not. The user score is Metacritic was 95. The user score is 9. I am curious to know so here's a listing for the GameCube version. GameCube version is a 96.
Huh.
And we did real quick before we jump into 20 questions, because this is important. The GameCube and the Wii version are completely reversed. That's a really big thing. I can't believe we brought up. And now if you play the Wii U version, it's based on the GameCube version, so it's not reversed. And actually, since I played through the game the first time on Wii, I'm now like, I don't remember the game so well from that long ago because I only played through it once, that it's confusing me a lot. But it is confusing me a little bit, where I'm like, wait, this is over there now.
If you play in hero mode, it's the Wii map. It's all reversed because the idea is that, you played the GameCube version, so here's a challenge, and they flip it over.
Right.
But most people played the Wii version, so putting hero mode flipped doesn't make any sense. I was like, wait, I know this map very well. The only thing that's difficult is there's no heart generator, there's no heart drops, and I take double damage already. I don't need the Ganondorf amiibo to take double damage.
So, all right.
Whatever. HD version was weird, but good.
So. And then I have some trivia here. I'll just read this real quick, and then we'll play 20 questions. So, following the discovery of a buffer overflow vulnerability, I don't know what that means, but I'm sure someone out there does. In the Wii version of Twilight Princess, an exploit known as the Twilight hack was developed, allowing the execution of custom code from a SD card on the console. Basically, this was used to allow you to play homebrew games, or more specifically, pirated games. And I know I knew people who had like an SD card that was just full of GameCube games, and they used this exploit to play Mario Sunshine and stuff like that. So that was now the version 3.3 and 3.4 of the Wii menu prevented copying exploited save files on the console. So I guess at some point and then version 4 fixed it. So I guess if you have a completely up-to-date Wii, you can't do this anymore. But
there are other workarounds.
Yeah, I'm sure there are. Because if there's a will, there's a way.
Yes.
All right.
Even the PS3 eventually got hacked.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So now it's time to play 20 questions. How that works is we got a game that we're going to play next week. Joel knows the game. I do not know the game. If Nolan was here, he also wouldn't know the game, and we would play 20 questions to figure out what that game is. Of course, 20 questions. I ask yes or no questions. Joel answers yes or no, and then we know what game we get to play next week. So I'm going to go ahead and start with, so was this game made after January 1st, 1990?
Oh, I have to look this up. Sorry.
Ah, boo.
I should have had this.
Kind of tells me that it's probably close to that since you don't know off the top of your head.
After January 1st, 1990?
After January 1st, 1990.
Yes.
Okay. That's question 1. Is this game exclusive to the platform?
Yes.
Okay. Is it a Nintendo game?
Yes.
Is it on the NES?
No.
No. Is it on the SNES?
No.
Oh. Is it on the Game Boy?
Yes.
All right. We got a handheld game here. That's question 6.
Yep.
I really burned through those. Is it developed by Nintendo?
No.
No. Okay. Game Boy games exclusives to the Game Boy. Is this a platformer?
Yes.
Okay. I had a Game Boy. I don't think I played too many games that weren't Nintendo games on it. Is it a licensed game?
No.
Okay, so it's not like Tiny Toons or something like that. Okay, is it developed by a Japanese developer?
Yes.
Okay.
Halfway there.
Halfway there. Was the developer Konami?
No.
Was it Capcom?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna abandon that line of questioning. It's a platformer. It's made by a Japanese developer that is not Nintendo, Konami, or Capcom. Oh gosh, Square wasn't making platformers back then. I don't even know that they're making platformers now. I guess they might be, but oh my goodness, does this game star a fairly recognizable mascot?
Yes.
All right. Oh my word. Do you fire projectiles in this?
You can.
You can. All right.
That's not the main mechanic.
Yeah, that's fine. Jeez. On Game Boy. Not Nintendo. Oh, wait. Did Nintendo publish it?
Yes.
Okay, so now we're probably talking HAL Laboratories. Well, let's just ask, is it a HAL game?
Yes.
Is it a Kirby game?
It is a Kirby game. You got to get the
It
right
is.
one, though.
Yes. Oh my gosh. You said it was a platformer. Okay, we did Kirby's Dream Land already, so that would leave Kirby's Dream Land 2.
Yes.
Okay.
In 18 questions, you got it.
Sweet. I like this game. It's good.
Yes,
It's got Animal Friend, all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah, the anniversary of Kirby's Dream Land, the one that started it all, is coming up pretty soon. It'll be 30 years on April 21st, I want to say.
Sure. Sounds good to me.
Hold on. April 27th. It'll be 25 years.
Okay.
So
sweet.
That's why I picked it, because the Kirby series is having an anniversary soon. We've already done the first one in the game series. So we did a Superstar.
Yep, we did that one too.
So let's do another Kirby game. Why not?
Sweet.
I love these games.
Is this on Virtual Console anywhere?
Yes, it is on 3DS Virtual Console.
Okay. It's probably around $5, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's usually how Game Boy games run.
Yeah. So, and it's a good game. I feel like this game had a Super Game Boy palette attached to it also, if you were lucky enough to have played it over there. I don't know if the 3DS Virtual Console utilizes that at all.
I don't know. I'm going to have to plug it into my Super Game Boy now.
Yeah.
Check this out.
I'm not 100% positive, but I do feel like there was, Super Game Boy had that very limited colored palette that it would add to certain games, and I feel like this was one of them. But I'm not 100% positive.
Well, usually certain games had a special border around them. Like usually it was very generic, and you could adjust the palette yourself.
Yeah.
But I know like Link's Awakening DX was backwards compatible with the original Game Boy, so it worked on the Super Game Boy, and it had its own custom frame. That's what they were called, frames.
Yeah.
I don't know if Dreamland 2 had a custom frame or not, because it might have been, well, it was late enough, 1995, so it could have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super Nintendo. You've got a Retron, right?
Yes.
Super Game Boy work on that?
Kind of.
Okay.
The Retron has a Game Boy port, so there's really no reason to use
no reason to do it.
Super Game Boy.
Cool.
Yeah. However, you cannot adjust the color if you're playing a Game Boy game through the Retron 5.
Okay.
It's in black and white, or it's in color, whether it's Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance.
Yeah.
So the Retron 5 actually plays like 7 different consoles, if you really think about it.
Yeah, it's NES, SNES, Genesis, Game Boy. Play Game Gear?
No.
Okay.
But like the SNES slot does Super Famicom also, and European games. It's region free.
Okay.
The Genesis port does Japanese and European games because it's region free.
Okay.
There's a Famicom port, so you can do both NES and Famicom, and then the Game Boy port does Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance. So there's a lot of games you can play on it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I keep telling myself I'm gonna get one of those.
They're actually really cheap, like cheaply made.
Oh yeah.
So like if you use it a lot, it'll break.
Oh. Well, that's lame.
So, yeah, the Retron 3 is actually a more well-built machine than the Retron 5.
And the Retron 3 just doesn't have the portable stuff, right? So no Game Boy.
Yeah, it doesn't do handheld games.
Okay. But otherwise it does everything else.
It does it does NES, Super NES, and Genesis is the Retron 3. It does not do Famicom like the Retron 5.
Okay.
I think you can do Super Famicom and and Mega Drive games. Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. All right. I gotta bounce over soon. So awesome. Let's plug. What do you got for?
Okay, so Nolan's not here.
Yeah. So he's Baseman214 on Twitter and Icy White Falcon on other stuff. As he says, you can find him using one of those. So
yeah, poor guy couldn't wake up this morning.
Yep. And where can we find you?
Anywhere you can find me on the internet. You can find me under Obi-Watt Kenobi. That would be Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Nintendo, PSN, Steam. Any of those places, just search for Obi-Watch Kenobi and you will find me.
You can find me on Twitter at Patrick Proper and at Salty Luchador. And usually you can just find me here on CrossForge Gaming. So that's Wednesday and Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern. I co-host the 2 podcasts that are those days. And then, of course, co-hosting this one every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. You can find Original Gamers Podcast at Official OG Cast on Twitter. We have a Twitch that I assume will probably eventually get merged over with CrossForge Gaming. I don't know how it's going to work. It's business talk. We have an Instagram, official.ogcast. One of us should take over that because LJ doesn't do that anymore. Yeah, and you can find CrossForge Gaming at crossforgegaming.com. So, oh yeah, and then music, and I didn't write anything down, but I'm pretty sure that I already knew what I was going to do. So, and again, if you're watching this on YouTube, you won't hear music. When I start uploading these to the audio feed only, I got to find time to do that, but you'll hear the music on the audio feed only. You won't hear the music on YouTube because, again, we don't want copyright strikes. So the music you'll hear, or you did hear if you're listening to the audio version, was the title sequence that we talked about earlier. Very, very pretty piece of music. Unfortunately, it's not orchestrated, but it's still really good. And what you're going to hear as we roll out is the Hyrule field, Hyrule overworld, whatever they call it in this game. One of my favorite versions of that song. It's really, really good. So, all right. Thanks for joining us. Please tell your friends about CrossForge Gaming. Join us for the other podcast. If you're into Hearthstone, there's a lot of stuff like that on CrossForge. I think a couple of the guys did card box openings of the new expansion that just came out. I guess there's dinosaurs in it. I'm not a big Hearthstone guy, so I
keep getting ads on YouTube about it, and I really don't care. I'm sorry.
So, so check that out. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time. Play Kirby Dream Land 2. It's going to be good. Bye, everybody.
Be good, humans.